Hello and welcome back to the White Pew podcast. I'm ZM and it's Sunday, the 10th of May, 2026. If you don't know, the White Pew is a website that I run with my friend and collaborator Gabrielle de la Puente. Gab is based in Liverpool, I'm down in London, and between these two cities, we take turns to write about art, exhibitions, but also culture at large, select films, music, books, whatever takes our fancy on any given Sunday. We post the text versions of those texts on thewhitepew.com or .co.uk, and this podcast feed is where we put the audio version of those texts so you can listen to us, the writers, read our own words and our own voices. If that is your format of preference, which, if you're listening to this, it probably is. I'm going to read this week's text, which is partly about Hurvin Anderson's massive solo show at the Tate Britain, but it is also just about painting. I have been developing some thoughts about painting between myself and, to be honest, between myself and my students. And I'm trying to nail them all down in writing so that I don't forget them and so the conversation doesn't disappear. So I've got that going on in the text as well. This is this is an explanation you didn't need, but never mind. I'm just saying this so that I can say, I'll read the text and it's only short, and then stay tuned to the end and I'll give you the emoji to post on as a comment on this week's, the announcement Instagram post for this text. Just because I never know if anyone's listening to these things. It often feels like throwing words into the void. And if you let me know that you've been listening, then it makes me feel less woozy. And it makes this all feel less futile. Okay, I'm going to read and stop nattering. Okay. It is rainy January and I'm looking through the UAL staff portal for a well-hidden form. If I fill in this form, I can get a free place on any UAL short course. I booked myself into a week of oil painting. It is rainy April and I'm in a studio around the side of Chelsea unpacking a half-price Cass Art multi-pack from my tote bag. See, I used to paint. I applied to art school with a portfolio full of paintings, but by the time I actually got there, painting had started to feel embarrassing and boring. I wrote scripts, made films, packed it all in, became a writer instead. But now, rainy April, I am in a studio and I am pushing paint around with my brush. I am mixing things into my paint, making the paint feel like chewing gum. I am making the colour stretch and slide. I'm painting my sister's face, but making her bubblegum pink because it is my painting. I can do whatever I want. All my desires are fulfilled or fulfillable. I'm having a really, really good time. Painting taught me that you can look at the world and see it, fine. Or you can look at the world and see the possibility of an image. An image wasn't something that landed in my lap. It was a premeditated thing I searched for. I make my eyes go fuzzy and out of focus. I imagine my field of vision as a little box. I rearrange everything in front of me by putting it in the box. I look at the space between the things. I stop seeing the things as things. I see them as shapes, lines, colours, and collections of tones in relation to each other. I see depth as a matter of order. The world is a collection of shapes that exist on top of each other. My vision becomes a realm to be mediated. Back in olden times, the job of the painter was to be a kind of optical illusionist. The painter could deploy a wide variety of technical strategies to make a bunch of grapes look juicy and real. I reckon it is more like a magical power than an art, because a painter can just conjure up an image from scratch while everyone else is scrabbling around looking for materials and contraptions. Painting has a weird relationship to truth, where truth is a sliding scale, transcribing the world faithfully, realistically, to bending the laws of time and space so a bunch of grapes can be juicier. Even when photography came along, when cameras could produce realistic images of things in the world, it clarified that that wasn't really the point of painting, so painting continued to exist. The illusions got weirder, wilder. When I talk about every other kind of art, I guess I talk about concepts and discourses and critical dialogues. When I talk about paintings, I talk about something that feels parallel, close enough, but not the thing itself. It is a language of similes. This painting looks sunburned. This painting looks like it has recently arrived from outer space. Paintings resist words, words being our attempt to regulate chaos. There is no suspension of disbelief. We know we are playing. The best we can do is find likenesses. Speaking this language of similes, we often reveal more about ourselves than we do about the images. Paintings force us to the point of projection. So now, it is sunny May and I'm standing in the Tate Britain looking at Hurvin Anderson's paintings. They are landscapes, in a way. They're painted from photographs, in a way. But they are also painting as an adjective. Paintingy, paintingier, paintingiest. So, painting, they obliterate the mythology of their own production. I can see the way he dissects an image. Depth is a matter of order. The image is a collection of shapes that exist on top of each other, but they interlock to the point of confusion. The image is a puzzle. You unlock it by rifling through the layers to figure out which one comes out on top. Solid dripping green off the trees, blue sky, blue sea in a wash over grey sand, the neon pea green of the light and the murky khaki of the trees. The wall text says something about haziness, looseness, spaces collapsing into themselves, nostalgia, history, and diasporic distance. The paintings are blurred. They give you a bare minimum amount of visual information. In this way, Anderson holds the viewer at a distance, allowing them limited access to the world of his image, or something like that. On any other day, maybe I'd be in the mood to run with this. The painted subject's right to unknowability, I guess. I don't object to it. But today it doesn't feel true. The short course has ended. It was only a week. And now I am painting at my kitchen table. I am forced to the point of projection. I feel like I am seeing an image that someone has searched for with their painter's eye. Vision as a realm to be mediated, rather than a truth that lands in your lap. There is a sensitivity in the space between the layers, in depth as a confusion of order. I have this vision of Hurvin Anderson in his studio. Like a sorcerer, he cajoles liquid paint into solid, settled arrangements. Some alchemical transformation. It takes form in a way that fulfills his desires, but only because he asks nicely. Crisp lines and molten blocks of colour. The material has a mind of its own, but somehow the paint and the painter are one and the same. As it settles into some fully saturated stolidity, it becomes a space he can then carve back into, carve out, embellish and bedazzle. He slips through layers, bending the laws of time and space, making shapes rub up against each other, interlocking them so they weave in and out. I'm dizzy because on one level I know how he's done that, but on another level it feels like a superhuman feat. In a language of similes, this painting is like a magic trick. And then that is this week's text. Thank you very much for listening. Please, for my emoji, can I have, in the like plants and objects section, can I have like one of the green leaves? Either the one where there are like loads of little leaves or the one with 2 sprouting leaves. I think, and I'll throw up some images on the website. So like if you go to the website, I'll link it in the show notes if you're listening. But on the actual page for this text, there will be a bunch of pictures of the paintings that I'm kind of talking about or talking to. They're all super landscape in a kind of weird sense. It's not like landscape, it's more like these are paintings where the natural world is like a protagonist, if that makes sense. Yeah, that makes more sense. I will say as well, I think like I keep seeing, like I keep hearing as well people talking about the Tracy Emin show at Tate, and I really thought I've been to both. I thought the Hurvin Anderson show was so much more worth a £20 entry fee. Find a Tate member, go along with them. But I do recommend this show. I thought it was really beautiful, and I thought his paintings were very absorbing. Congrats, Hurvin Anderson. for being a great painter. Okay, that's it. That's all. I will leave you to the rest of your Sunday and stop nattering on. And I'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening. Bye.